see that we're really starting to shape the foreground with that adjustment layer. Now, if I hit the masking key, you can see that that part right over here is getting affected. And if I don't want that to happen, the way that this Luma range works, what I need to do here is come in, and if you want to see this in grayscale, you can kind of see over here that this part's getting affected. And I don't want it to. So I can come in and control click my layer, and I can say rasterize mask. Now that I've rasterized that mask, I can come in with my eraser, and let's zoom in here a little bit. I can come in with my eraser and just slowly start taking that out. Now I have my brush set to, let's see here. A really low flow. Let me turn that up for a second. This will do it much quicker. So that lets me come in and erase any of the parts that I don't want it to be affected. Turn that off. And now we're left with the mask that's mainly only affecting the foreground parts that I actually want. Now from here, I really want to pop this highlight right up in here. And I'm probably going to deepen some of these shadows through here. And I can do that a couple of ways. If I come in and add a new layer, if I do filled layer, it's going to be global. So I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to call this, what is that, peak. Now, I'm going to ignore everything else that's happening to my image. And I'm going to go ahead and modify this. And then I'm going to invert the mask and paint it in wherever I want it. So if I want to pop this, I really need to increase my brightness a bit. Definitely want to pop the contrast of that a little bit. Now I'm taking this slightly further than I normally would because I'm going to be brushing this in under, let's see, I want to add a little bit more yellow to this. So I'm going to go into my blue curve. And then I'm going to come over to my color palette and target these yellows. And I want them to be a little bit more yellow, definitely more intense. And you can see that this is affecting the entire image. That's not an issue right now because we're going to fix that in just a second. So once I've gotten it kind of where I want it, I could actually do a little bit of structure in here. Once I have that how I want it, I'm going to come up here, control click, and say invert mask. Now that's not affecting anything in the image. I'm going to come in with my brush. I'm going to check my settings. I want my flow to be really low. Typically, I always use a flow of about 3. Since I'm using a Cintiq or a Wacom, I'm going to be using pin pressure, and I'm going to have auto mask on. And then I'm going to come in with a relatively small brush. I'm going to do something slightly larger. And I'm just going to paint this in. Let me enlarge this a little bit. Oops. Okay. And I'm just going to start painting this in wherever it is that I want it. If I want to see that, I can hit the M key, or I can also come in and show the grayscale. So I'm just lightly coming in and painting it, mainly in the spots that have the color. I'm not really too concerned about the other areas of this image. So I'm painting the lighter parts of the rock. And since I have it on a three flow, I essentially have to go over the same spot roughly 33 times in order to make it full strength from what my original adjustment was. So then I just keep painting until I like the physical results of it. And I can toggle that on and off. And if it's too much, I can always play with the opacity of that layer to toggle that up and down. And then the other thing that I want to take a peek at is this forest down in here. I really want to intensify these greens. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. If I come over to my color palette here, I can take the individual colors. I can also do a sample. Let's do advanced here. And I can increase the range. And I can hit the three little dots and I can do create masked layer from selection. So basically I'm targeting all my greens. I don't want to target this much blue. And now this is a mask based on all my greens. I can hit the M key and it will show you what it selected. So here it's really targeting that, and I could make that much more precise with the advanced color editor there. But this actually does a pretty good job. So I'm going to hit the M key again to get back out of that. And now I'm really going to go to work on the greens. And I can come in. I'm actually going to do this with a curve. Set to green. Don't want it that much. I can just do a very, very subtle pop with my green curve. And I'm probably going to pull down the range on that a little bit, or pull down the opacity on that a little bit. I just want the greens to pop a little bit more. And then I want them to go a little bit darker. That works pretty well. And then lastly, I want to really do the sky. So I'm going to add a new layer. This is going to be filled. Type in sky, hit return. And now I'm going to do a Luma, and I'm essentially going to mask. Oops, cancel. Let me show you the mask while I do that. I'm essentially going to mask everything down below. So that I'm affecting mainly the sky here and not much of anything else. I'm going to hit apply to that. And now I'm going to come in and hit the M key again so I can get back into my image. And I want to add a little bit of blue. I can do that with the color editor. I can also come in here with the blue channel. And this is mainly a highlight, so I can stabilize the dark tones down here. And I can just come in and add a little bit of blue in there. Ever so slight. I can see now once I add that blue that my green went a little too far. So I'm going to lower that down a little bit again. The nice thing about that is I can just switch to layers and quickly change the opacity on whatever it is that I want to affect. So this allows me a lot more flexibility in doing whatever it is I want to the file. And on the greens, if I don't like that it comes back in here and I really want to hit it in here, I can always control click, rasterize my mask, hit the M key, come in with the eraser, and pull that out of that range. So if I didn't want that to hit any of this area back in here, you can always rasterize your file and clean that up. I'm working off a laptop, so it's not terribly happy with running numerous applications. And now that green is kind of limited more to the foreground. And I have my sky there. Now, the other thing that you can actually do with an image like this is I can come in with styles. So if I come through and I want to start looking at different styles and how they're going to affect the image, that Spring 5 actually looks really, really quite nice on that mountaintop. So I can actually come into my layers, new fill layer, apply the Spring 5. Oops, never mind. Subtract that. You have to option click it. So you option click the Spring 5 and apply to new layer. Now I go back to my layers. Spring 5 as a layer. It's applying it to the entire image. If I don't want that, I control click the layer, invert mask. Now it's not